Welcome. My name is Ron Watson. I am the Director of Content for PTC User, and I'd like to welcome you to the next PTC User Expert Speaker Series webinar. Today, we are joined by Paul from Anark, and he will be introducing us to Anark's Intelligent Information Management and Visual Collaboration, the power of the connected technical data package. Before we move on to Paul's presentation, I would like to just start with a few housekeeping topics. First of all, we are here, PTC User, and our mission is to support, educate, and advocate for the customers of PTC globally. For us to be able to do this, it's really all about you. And there's a number of ways that you can participate and contribute. One is to be a speaker at an upcoming webinar, just like Paul is today. You can share tips and tricks with your fellow users. You can participate in one of our upcoming panel discussions. You can send a short video. There's a number of ways. The main reason is, or the main way is for you to collaborate with other users. If you want to contribute, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, ronw@ptcuser.org. Let's talk a little bit about what's coming up next and some exciting things we have. First of all, I believe it was back in April that Brian Thompson and a number of very knowledgeable people at PTC did a webinar, Creo focused webinar. Brian and PTC were kind enough to make that available on demand. And so you can go to this link, you'll get a copy of this presentation with the hyperlinks in it within about a week of this webinar. And or you can just search on PTC's website, you see it, but it was quite a knowledgeable sharing session, and I recommend that you do review it. Next, although this started just late last month, it is continuing. MathCAD, which is again one of PTC's cornerstone products, used both by Creo and Windchill users and non-Creo or Windchill users. It's a series of educational sessions that are going on. You'll find details at that link about each one. Again, I recommend that you attend them. Since we've already missed the first one, the second one's coming up soon. I believe they're available for recording. You can check on the website. LiveWorx. Now, LiveWorx isn't going to be the LiveWorx we know and love. It's virtual, like almost every other conference in the world for the foreseeable future until we know how the future is going to look. But PTC has done a fantastic job, and we've worked with them to try to deliver a virtual conference that will provide the value that all of us deserve. Now, the good news, the really good news, is it's free, and that now potentially, a large company, even a small, medium size, maybe you could send 1, 2 people, maybe 10. Now you can open it up to everyone. And so I recommend that you do attend the event, and you should register. Now, there's a number of tracks. So one individual won't be able to attend to everything, just like if you were at the event. But I believe that these will be available on demand at some certain time after. However, you need to register in order to get access to it. So it's a good thing to do. So please do that and join us. As part of that, as you know, PTC User does run our summer open technical committee meetings, and it's either the day before, the day after, or both of the LiveWorx event. This year we're doing it after. We have a great set of content going on. Our chair people of our TCs, along with their participating members, have done really some fantastic work to put this all together in very short notice. So please do register and attend. It is open to everyone. You will, of course, if you're not already a PTC user member, you will become one. And again, it's free. So by all means join us. And now, finally, we do have our face-to-face PTC User Technical Community Open Forum Winter 2021 scheduled for San Diego. We are going forward with it. As far as we know today, obviously we're looking out. I mean, it's far in the distance. When we do start registration, we will be assured we will have a very generous refund policy in case something changes. You know, we're not out for the money, we're out for the participation. We'll do our very best to keep everyone informed. But again, please put this in your calendar. We are interested, however, in your feedback. You know, we know some companies have travel restrictions, most have them. Some of it is COVID-19 related, and others is financially related. And so, so let us know, give us feedback if, you know, your business or company or market, you're seeing, you know, positive or negative about travel starting the beginning of next year. That would be awfully help, because again, we're an independent organization, not for profit, and you know, we obviously can't, we don't have the big pockets to absorb, you know, an event that, you know, nobody can show up to, you know, per se. We believe things will get better. We all hope they do, and so, you know, we appreciate the feedback. Now, for those of you back to webinars that have not had a chance to attend previous ones, or you missed some, we have all of them from the beginning. I joke, you know, Rod Miller, who used to work for me, he did the first ever PTC user webinar for ages ago. He now owns his own company, his own consulting company, and he recently did a webinar. And that's available. Rod's original one's available. And so they're all there. It's all great content. Please do consume it. We are moving toward a new platform. Very excited. We're going to come out with some information about it soon, but we will, I assure you, we will carry this content over to it. And as I said, the webinar today, the recording and the presentation will be available within approximately a week of today before we process everything and get it posted, and et cetera, et cetera. Again, we're all volunteers. We all have our full-time jobs and more. But you know, look out for that, and we'll inform everybody. So what I'd like to do now is turn it over to Paul and his team to deliver some really exciting content that I'm looking for. Paul?
All right, well, thank you. And I'm going to share my screen here, so please bear with me. And let's make sure everybody can see this. And I'm going to actually hand this over to Jim Mary to kick us off. So Jim, why don't you take us away?
Thanks very much, Paul, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We're really excited about the content we're going to share with you, so why don't we just dive right in. Can you go to the next slide, Paul, please? Just briefly, thought it would be good to give you guys a sense of who Anark is and what we've been up to. We're really focused on providing technical content management software solutions into the manufacturing sector. And these content management solutions provide activity-based visual collaboration and enable digital workflows, all based on the technical information that's created and then used throughout the product lifecycle by manufacturing companies. So we've been empowering this digital transformation within the manufacturing sector, and probably for about 20 years now. And we have big marquee customers, many of the logos you see on the right side of the screen here. And they really span all sectors of manufacturing. So that includes aerospace, energy, high-tech, automotive, transportation, and so on. We've been a long-time PTC partner, and we have many successful joint deployments inside companies like Lockheed-Martin and Cisco and Ericsson and TE Connectivity and the U.S. Navy. And towards the end of the presentation, we'll give a little more details about what those deployments actually look like. Our company is headquartered in Boulder, Colorado, and we have offices throughout the U.S. and development office in India. And then we have worldwide technology and integration partners and distribution partners, so that you know, it essentially extends our footprint out, you know, outside of the U.S. and throughout the globe. Next slide, please. We thought it'd be good to just focus a little bit about our relationship with PTC. We have a very long-standing relationship, as I mentioned. We're a PTC Industry Gold partner. We've created an integration framework that takes our publishing and content management software and integrates it into the PTC Windchill environment. And this has been deployed now and in production in many environments. So it's really a production proven, ready to go solution. It enables the PTC customers to make use of their Creo and other PLM data and publish and manage what we describe as role-specific technical content, and then take that content and use it in connected digital workflows. So this publishing and automation software that we provide can be managed via direct integration within PTC Windchill. So you can have events and event handlers that kick off publishing automation processes. And Paul's going to get into the nuts and bolts of how that all works here shortly. We've also integrated the content that is published so that it can be accessed within Thingworx Navigate environment. And so we have two specific applications, one for viewing TDPs and another for collaborating with TDPs. And all of that can be accessed and interacted with through the Navigate environment. So, in short, we've really been driving success for the PTC shared customer base and enabling the extension of the value that Windchill, Navigate, and Creo provide to the PTC customers. Next slide, please. We're going to just describe a couple of industry terms here that I think help anchor us in this presentation. They start with a very kind of broad strategic and then narrow down to some more tactical things that are specific to the manufacturing sector. But, we start with intelligent information management, and the Association for Intelligent Information Management that defines this as the collection of strategies, methods, and tools that an organization uses to capture, create, store, secure, analyze, deliver, and automate data. So where IIM is really all about data and content and not data or content. So I think, the question for me here is like, what's the distinction between data and content? I mean, this is pretty critical to understanding what, intelligent information is all about. And so data is really the raw information that's generated by all the processes that are running in your company. And content is really defined as taking that data and combining it with the context that explains or situates the data. And this is what enables you to gain insights and make decisions about that data. You really need the data plus the context. So the challenge is that this information is typically, it spans multiple domains and functional areas within your company. There's different systems that are used to manage the creation and dissemination of that information. So it's really hard to gather it and create an aggregated view that's really necessary for different functional areas when people need to be able to get this data and content to make a decision. So it's really about pulling together the right information and giving it to the right people at the right time so that they can quickly understand it and make their decision. So this is really, the challenge, and meeting that challenge well is really the art of intelligent information management. And so that's a really broad term and concept that spans all industries really. So Industry 4.0, we start to get into terms that are specific to manufacturing. And so what Industry 4.0 is really about is enabling what folks call the smart factory. And so there are now, it's through miniaturization and driving economies of production. It's now very easy to embed internet connected devices that can monitor and transmit information about what's going on through all the assets in your factory, and then even in the products that you create and then deliver to your customer. So this really, for the first time, enables a very fine-grained, real-time view about what's going on, and then marrying all that data back to the design information. You start to have these feedback loops that start to deliver real value. So this is what Industry 4.0 is all about. So now getting even more focused, the digital thread is a term really that's describing the flow of information through the manufacturing life cycle, and being able to, again, aggregate information from all the different functional areas and provide an integrated view of that asset as it moves through the product life cycle. And so, traditionally all that data is in siloed systems that are, serving a particular functional area. So again, that challenge is how do you enable that data to flow up and down through the life cycle in an efficient manner. The last term is the model-based enterprise, and so this is really a very specific term that's all about taking the design content and the models that are created by the engineering department and then reusing that data throughout the manufacturing process. So in quality and in manufacturing, and then field service, and then even deliver some of this technical data to your customers so that they can use it as they sustain the products that are given to them. So these are the four, those four terms. So moving on. So I think that the broad goal here for all of those terms and the systems and strategies that they imply is really enabling digital transformation so that manufacturing organizations can run more efficiently. So some of the challenges with this is that, as we've said earlier, that the current processes and solutions for sharing data and providing collaboration tools and visualization of all of this data, they're often proprietary, rigid, ad hoc, and they haven't been designed to communicate with each other and provide what's needed for a modern web-based digital thread paradigm. So as a result, OEMs and suppliers, they struggle with the functionality, and there's knowledge gaps and all this limited interoperability, and this really prevents adoption of more modern, effective processes. So it's very challenging to manage this wide array of different technical data types and file formats required to achieve enterprise and supply chain digitalization. So this is really all about all the different types of data that's created throughout the life cycle, and managing them and then pulling them together when they're needed to provide that integrated view of an asset. And then lastly, there's this lack of secure, collaborative, managed data access between the OEM and the supplier, and this really ends up producing release delays. It can lead to more engineering change requests. It ultimately reduces the quality of the products, and it also creates IP security risks. So the earlier that you can enable meaningful collaboration between the OEM and the supplier, you can catch problems before they, really before you start cutting parts. So the earlier you catch the problem in the process, the cheaper it is to address it. So it's really all about enabling that collaborative engineering and manufacturing early and often. So next slide, please. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Paul Perreault, and he's going to get into some of the nuts and bolts about how we go about this.
Thanks, Jim. And just want to start off by saying thank you again for your time and attention. Love this community, and it's a privilege to present to you. So first off, my name is Paul Perreault. Been here at Anark for 13 plus years or so, and and roles, really to primarily help our customers understand what it is that we do, how we do it, and how it can benefit them. And so today we're here to talk to you about, this connected technical data package concept and the digital thread. And so what I want to start out by talking about is really just to level set. Those of you that are familiar with Anark know that, well, they might know that I personally like to be in telestrator mode, so I'm going to use my pen tool here and all that. But more seriously, you know that Anark builds commercial off-the-shelf software to aggregate numerous different types of technical data and package that information together through the use of automation recipes to create technical data packages that are essentially fit for purpose for numerous different roles or functions within the enterprise. And so the point I'd like to emphasize is that, the information that we might want to share with suppliers and the information that folks on the, say, the shop floor, the manufacturing floor, they might all be derived from the same sources, the same authoritative data, but it's different. It's presented differently depending on this context, and that's really the key thing that Jim mentioned earlier. Is that how do you get the right information to the right people at the right time? And really what that terminology is getting at is how do we give information to folks in different functional areas that's appropriate for their use case and carries the appropriate context. So, Anark is, we've got commercial off-the-shelf software to package up different types of technical data and make it fit for purpose. What we're going to talk about today is sort of the concept of technical data as browser-based content and how that content can be made available in a smart, connected, collaborative platform that we call Anark Core MBU Web. And so what does MBU Web do? Well, if you can package up various different types of technical content, and then you can find a way to not only distribute that content easily and efficiently, but then also provide, access and also restricted access to all this different type of, technical content that's published, and then also provide a formal means for people to collaborate, essentially to, connect all these isolated functional silos, and then also to capture, feedback, knowledge, etc., and then feed that back into, the, product ideation and product engineering and, et cetera, et cetera. And so collectively, all together, that's what MBU Web is, and that's what we're going to show you today. And again, it's this, think of it as an intelligent content management platform that's browser-based, meaning that you can access content within MBU Web on any device, on any platform, without any use of additional plugins or whatnot. And not only does it, again, provide the ability to distribute this information, but also provides access to and restricts access to, and then finally, provides a formal means to collect and capture knowledge and feed it back into the enterprise. So I'm going to go here to this next schematic and just really talk about sort of these two different sides of the same coin that we call Anark Core platform. And so on one hand, we have Anark Core publishing services, and some of you might be familiar with our product Anark Core Workstation or Anark Core Server. These are content publishing applications that can be used to, again, aggregate, package, and combine numerous different types of technical content to create, MBU Web content or PDFs or what have you. And again, this is all made possible by this concept of a recipe-based automation. And in a nutshell, a recipe describes what type of content do I want to combine together? How do I want to combine it together? And it's really a pattern that describes how we prepare different types of technical data to create, browser-based content that's fit for purpose and provides the context that's necessary. Now, the other side of the coin here is what we're primarily going to be talking about today, and what I'll be showing you in a moment, which is Anark Core MBU Web. And this is, at a high level, as you'll see in a moment, fundamentally it's a portal that you access, with your browser. And that browser could be on your mobile phone, could be on a tablet, could be desktop, could be laptop, etc. The point is that this intelligent content management platform hosts all different types of role-specific content that can be accessed by people in different functional silos, within an organization, and also outside of your organization. So it really provides this sort of common platform that where people can access content that's been published for them, for their role, and have all sorts of collaborative, connected experiences. And again, we'll see that in just a second. So before we get into the demo, just want to say the way that this all works is by embracing open standards. And today, we're going to be talking about browser-based content. And really, browser-based content was built, browsers were built to display content available on the World Wide Web. And the way that, or the reason that the web has become such an important, ubiquitous platform for not only exchanging information, but also for communicating, through social media apps, et cetera, is due to web standards. And so everything that we're going to see today is W3C, HTML5, 100% standards compliant browser-based content. And that word jumble or word salad, what it actually means in real life is that I can interact with all these different types of technical content using a single application, and that application is my browser. So previously in this schematic up here, we talked about all these different, downstream consumers of technical data. And, I don't want to omit any of these, really important roles, but, for today, we're just going to focus on what we refer to as our, sort of three primary use cases. And starting off here is really, how do we communicate with the supply chain? And so we're going to talk about supply chain communication and what it means to provide time-limited access to technical content for the purposes of, request for information, request for quotes, request for bids, et cetera, and really focusing on the collaboration between the OEM and the supplier. Next, we're also going to talk about how we essentially, publish, distribute, access, and then use or execute what we would just generally call work instructions for, manufacturing and assembly. And so the key thing that we're going to see here is not only how we access this technical content, but how we can collect data during the execution of these work processes. And so this enables, again, it's really, the common thread here is the sort of connected technical data package that has been published and are fit for purpose for different roles within the organization. Now, finally, we'll talk about field service, very similar in some ways to, the use case, the manufacturing use case. But again, in field service, the focus here is on having a mobile-friendly on and offline access to rev-controlled technical content that I can access on a mobile device in the field in a, connected, or a Wi-Fi connected, or even a network-less environment. And again, getting back to these web standards, the W3C has not only described how we make browser-compatible web content, but also provides features to enable us to essentially download or pre-cache all kinds of information within the web browser itself, so that if I go into an environment where I don't have network connectivity, I can still interact with the technical data that I've got. So those are all key capabilities of not only the web as a platform, but also of MBU Web as this, again, smart, connected, collaborative environment that enables communication and data capture through all these different, really siloed functional areas in an organization. So right now, I'm going to pop over here to Google Chrome. And as I mentioned before, conceptually, MBU Web is a portal. And I can log into a portal. And when I do, I only see content that my user has access to. And that's a really key important point to emphasize here, is that I don't see what I don't have access to. And that has profound implication for protecting intellectual property, for creating, these sort of groups of content that are restricted to particular users or groups. And so we're going to see some of that in just a moment. But again, when I log in, I only see things that I have access to. And in this case, I'm seeing a threaded conversation. I'm seeing a whole bunch of links here. The way that I access technical content is just like anything else that you might experience on the internet. I just click a link. And when I do, I can see all different types of technical content that's been published. Now, in this case, we're just looking at a drawing. And the key thing to understand here is that this isn't a DRW file. This isn't a PDF. It's browser-based HTML5 standards compliant content. And I don't have to download anything to view it. It's all presented right here within my web browser. And that also has profound implications for how we control our intellectual property, and also how we make sure that people are looking at the current revision of the technical data that's published. So in other words, I don't need to download something and then open it in another application. And what that means is that the OEM or the person that's publishing this data doesn't have to worry about, when they send out a new revision, are you looking at the file that they sent you on Friday, or are you looking at the file that I sent you the following Wednesday? When I access these links in MBE Web, I'm always seeing the current rev that's been published. So there's drawings. Here's a technical data package that includes several different types of technical content. So we've got a traditional drawing here with bill of materials, different views. If I can go back up here, I can look at a different type of document. This is a set of installation and operation and maintenance instructions. You can see here again, there are no documents. This is all browser-based content that I can access right here within my web browser, whether I'm on a mobile device, an iPad, a Samsung Galaxy, Amazon Fire. Anything that can run a modern web browser can access this content without any plugins, without any configuration, etc. So here I am, I'm looking at I wouldn't say that this is a large assembly by any means, but you can see that I have access to the full EBOM here, and all the types of interactivity that you'd be used to in Creo. But again, I'm here within my browser, and I can access, I can interrogate, I can activate different combination states, all the things that you would normally do in a separate application you can do right here within your browser. And of course, as Jim mentioned earlier, sort of a foundational capability that Anark provides is the ability to publish a wide range of technical content from numerous different sources. So what does that mean? Well, I can publish drawings, I can publish other types of documentation, specifications, etc. I can publish 3D models with model-based definition. And so in this particular case, we're looking at a, people might be familiar with this model. I think it was featured in the NIST MBD sample data sets, but all of the model-based definition here, all of the associativity that you'd normally expect to see, enables people to interrogate surface profiles and perpendicularities and datums, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's all right here within my browser. Now, this is just, you could think of this as accessing technical content. And certainly this has a context, but it really doesn't speak to a use case per se. But I might want to make this type of technical content available to, say, my supply chain. Hey, here's a link, go log in and you can access this assembly or this part model, etc. And you can interact with the data, again, without any additional software needed to download and open this stuff. Now, let's start talking about when we provide additional context to the technical data that's published. And so I'm going to start talking about here, let's just talk about a manufacturing work instruction. And so this is really an example of a work instruction that's made with a new module that we're going to be releasing soon called the Anark Core MBU Web Work Management. And what it enables you to do is not only to distribute and access, what we generally refer to as work instructions, but also authoring and editing those work instructions right here within the browser. So it's a completely browser-based authoring, review, and execution environment that MBU Web provides. Now, when I want to start executing or using this work instruction, it's really easy to use and follows all the user interface paradigms that people are used to using or used to interacting with in a web application. So here's a list of process steps. I'm just going to click on one. You can see here that I've got a digital picture from somebody's digital camera where they've highlighted a serial number and a part number. And so here's the key part about a digital thread application and the context around this technical content is that as I'm executing or as I'm proceeding through this work instruction, I want to collect the part number that I'm working on, and you can see here down in the right-hand corner, lower right-hand corner, I'm entering the part number and the serial number. And so during the execution of this work instruction, I'm collecting in-process verification and quality data. And when I click this button, the system knows that I, Paul Perreault, just completed step 1. I can go to step 2. We've collected that part number and the serial number that's stored in the database. Now here's a completely different type of technical content. And so, previously we're looking at a digital picture. Here I'm looking at a 3D model. And that's also a really important thing to emphasize here is that, we've all been interacting with and using numerous different types of media. And, back in the, 2000s, people used to say multimedia. Well, what that really means is that, when I want to author a work instruction, what's really important is to provide all of the information that my downstream user might need to execute the task. And in some cases that might be a schematic, in some cases that might be a movie, in some cases that might be a 3D model, might be a digital picture, etc. So again, the browser and web-based content in HTML5, this is I want to say a mixed media or a multimedia capable platform that can display numerous different types of technical content for the downstream user. And so you can see here, I'm just going through a couple of these different tasks here. Some of my tasks have, 3D models. Some of them have animations. You can see here that we're going to watch how these various different parts mate together. And so this is much more than just a solution for visualizing, 3D models. It's really presenting this information in a specific context and enables me to execute a process and also collect, again, in-process verification or in-process quality right here within the browser. So I'm going to go on here to another example. And again, this is, talking about the fundamental nature of Anark's capabilities to collect and combine and aggregate and publish numerous different types of technical data from different domains, and to provide a context around it so that people can collaborate and communicate. And so what we're looking at here on the left again is a 3D model of a printed circuit board, but over here on the right, we're looking at a logical description of this product, which is of course the schematic. And so if you're from the 3D, CAD world, you might want to interact with this assembly through the use of like a, EBOM or an MBOM or, basically a parts list. And you can see here when I click on these parts in the parts list, I can tell how many instances of that part are used, but I can also see where they're located physically on the board, along with a whole bunch of different attributes or properties about these particular components. However, if I'm from a different discipline, if I'm from the, ECAD side, and so, I'm used to interacting with the logical description of this product, I'm interfacing or I'm accessing or interacting with this technical data through the use of reference designators. And what you can see here is that when I click on, say, C3, the schematic zooms and pans to that particular region where we can see C3 right here. And then also we highlight that in the 3D model. And so again, this is a demonstration that shows how not only to aggregate different types of information from different sources and how to combine it together, but also to provide an application that people from different domains can use to have meaningful discussions during the product ideation or the release process, or even communicating with downstream consumers in the supply chain, etc. Now, another key aspect of MBE Web is this idea of activity-based collaboration. And so really the way that I like to describe this is I say, okay, well, what do you get when you combine, a whole bunch of technical content with an application like Facebook or LinkedIn or another type of, maybe some of you might visit some internet forums and have discussions about souping up your Datsun 240Z or something like that. So what we're looking at here is a threaded discussion. This is what we call an activity. And this activity was created by Scott Collins, who's our CTO. And during the definition of this activity, you set a start and an end date. And this is a really important concept because it means that you can provide access to the system to people who are, within your organization or outside of your organization. They can all have logins, but if I log in and try to access this activity after it has expired, I no longer have access to the discussion. I don't have access to any of the technical content, etc. And so it's a way to create, what I would, again, what I referred to as before as these time-limited, activity-based, sort of collaborative experiences that enable people to have discussions and solve technical problems across multiple different domains. And so, for example, I might be, a supplier, and here we are reviewing this 3D circuit board, and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, boy, the enclosure that I'm designing, I have no idea if my enclosure is going to be sufficient or have sufficient height to fit this. And I'm also noticing that the OEM didn't provide any dimensions on this circuit board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a comment here. I'm going to use some commenting tools, and there's all kinds of different commenting tools that we have in. And I'm just going to draw a red box around here. And maybe I'll go and create some text as well and choose a different color. And I'm going to say, what is the height of this capacitor? And you can see here that I can't spell. So I'm just going to do this real quick. And now what's happening is the system is capturing my question, capturing this comment, capturing my textual comment here. Let's have a discussion about envelope, for this thing. So it's providing a formal method to distribute, access, collaborate, and capture all of the sort of knowledge and communication that normally takes place between all these different people and all their different functional silos. And so that has profound implications for eliminating, this, the chaos of email and PowerPoints and screenshots and, figuring out who sent what to who and, all that kind of stuff. So I know we're running short on time, but I don't want to omit mentioning that we've got a family of Thingworx Navigate applications. And so, this is Thingworx Navigate. You might be familiar with this user interface. But what Anark does is that we've developed 2 different applications for Navigate that we call View TDP and Collaborate with TDP. And these are fully integrated applications within the Thingworx environment. It looks like my session token might have expired here. Don't know what just happened, but let's try this again. Sorry about that. These are fully integrated applications within this environment. And when I click on one, you can see here that my my Navigate search bar comes up, and I can just search for TDP. And so it's querying the system. And so those are the TDPs that have been published into Anark MBU Web, but are nonetheless accessible through the Navigate applications that we make available. So at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Jim and leave him with just a few minutes here to finish up. But I hope that was a informative demonstration. Thank you for your time. Here you go, Jim.
Thank you, Paul. So we thought it'd be good to just cover a few of the joint Anark-PTC customer deployments. So start with the NavC. There's a deployment there that's on it's starting with and it's PTC and Accenture, and they brought in Anark to complement the team. And what they're doing is implementing a new system to dynamically execute maintenance and supply actions on the ships and submarines, and the goal of meeting the mission readiness requirements. So this is being deployed as an Anark Navigate application, so similar to what Paul just showed you, and will support both ashore and afloat ships and submarines. And the system has to be audible, and of course cyber security is paramount. Cisco has implemented an automated model-based enterprise-enabled TDP generation solution with a goal of more effective supplier data access and collaboration. And they use Windchill along with Agile to manage their data, and all the engineering data is in the Creo format. And they've already seen significant ROI in the form of cycle time reduction when they iterate with their OEMs, between the OEM and the supplier. Lockheed-Martin has deployed Anark Core publishing software throughout multiple divisions, and this includes to support automated model-based enterprise-enabled TDP for the Orion space program, and again, with the goal of more effective supplier collaboration and data access, and this is from within their Windchill, PLM, and Creo data environment. Last but not least, TE Connectivity, longtime customer of ours, and they've also implemented an automated model-based enterprise-enabled TDP publishing solution, the goal of improving engineering, manufacturing, and tooling supplier data access and collaboration, and they're also Windchill and Creo users. Next slide, please. So an obvious thing to ask is, what's the ROI for pushing through this type of a digital transformation and intelligent information management strategy? And so the ROI metrics that you see here, these were results of a study that collected this information, multiple studies. You can see down in the gray box there the sources of this data. But what's clear is that there is significant ROI to be collected throughout the entire life cycle. So it starts, with on the new product innovation process, 20% reduction in bringing new products to market, 30% reduction in the engineering time, 20% reduction in manufacturing and supplier rework, and then you start to get some really huge numbers here. 74% reduction in the design, manufacturing, and inspection cycle time. I think this was largely the result of providing higher fidelity information with the right context so that people are able to gain the insights they need more quickly, and as a result, they're also able to avoid errors. And so this also, you see the related, the last item, it's drastically reduced the amount of time it takes a supplier to respond to a bid request. So before we move on, I think one of the lower numbers here is this 20% reduction in manufacturing supplier rework. That was measuring incidents and not value. And I think when you weight these things by the actual value, this is one of the more important and larger value ROI items. Next slide, please. So we'll just close here with a kind of a funny, pithy comment from Peter Drucker. The culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so, obviously we're all here because we're interested in digital transformation. And so this is really any kind of transformation. It's a combination of process, tools, and technology. And then, so what Peter Drucker is really saying is that you can have all that in place and be ready to go, but if your people don't adopt these new tools and processes, you're not going to get anything. So I believe there's some bullets here. If you could advance the slide. So again, the challenges here are that how do you implement a secure, connected, and collaborative digital enterprise? It really requires alignment throughout the entire organization. You need strong support from upper management, and then you also need strong supplier commitment. And so, what we found there is that it's important to pull your suppliers into the process very early and treat them as a collaborative partner in the design process. So obviously interoperability and managed access to complete and current data are essential. I think we've shown how MBU Web can be implemented to extend the Windchill and Creo capabilities to provide this. Tools for effective collaboration and access from virtually any device from any location is increasingly important. Everybody wants to be able to access the data with whatever device they have and from wherever they are. Resilient, open, flexible platforms and applications to support the ideal and evolving process is key. So I think what's really paramount there is that you need a system that can connect to all the different sources of data and one that's standards-based and resilient, so that you, as your needs change, you can configure or reposition your tools as needed. So as we saw on the last slide, the ROI, if you can do this and pull it off with a successful implementation, is really huge. So I think that's what we'd like to end on. I think I believe we have some questions in the Q&A pod. But before we get started with that, I just want to again thank everybody for their time and attention.
Yeah, this is Ron. Thank you. Yeah, we do have a few questions. I'll just take them from the earliest to the latest. What are the browser requirements? Only Chrome or IE 11? Can you specify if you haven't already?
Sure. I will, instead of giving sort of specific version numbers, I'll make the blanket statement that all major web browsers, that would be Safari, Chrome, Mobile Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, I believe it's 11 or above, and then also Microsoft Edge are supported going back, 5 years or so plus. So the supported browsers is a broad and deep pool of compatible browsers. And again, any browser that was released, relatively recently is capable of displaying this content.
Hey, Paul, if I could just add, we've also had some success, as a result of that with delivering our content on these, AR, XR devices. Yep. So if there's anything that you'd like to add to that to explain how we're able to do that.
Yeah, so many of these devices are actually, their displays are using, what's known as embeddable browsers. And so they're really, applications like Microsoft Edge or, Chrome or other browsers that are responsible for accessing and displaying this type of content. And again, the big benefit here is that the standards-based HTML5 content in the World Wide Web Consortium. I mean, these are the technologies that make the web what it is today, which is the most ubiquitous application on the planet. So yeah, so hopefully that answers the question.
So we got time for say one more. I'm just going to pick one here, and we can follow up. Just so you know, we have some additional questions coming through. We'll follow up in writing on these questions. Are the ROI results based on the use of MBU Web?
Oh, this is Jim. I'll take that one. Anark Core has been successfully deployed since 2007 within digital thread, model-based enterprise initiatives that have delivered significant ROI to our customers. Anark Core MBU Web really represents the more recent evolution of that platform that enables organizations to gain more insight from their technical content while increasing data security, privacy, and collaboration. So, the ROI and performance metric presented really are a combination of benchmark studies and survey results from successful industry digital thread and MBE initiatives. So they're all publicly available and do include participation from some of Anark's customers. One of the benchmark ROI results that we can talk about today comes from our recent GE Power supply chain collaboration webinar. GE Power focused on their deployment of Anark Core MBE Web as their web-based supplier collaboration solution. And Kenna Yokoyama from GE Power shared that what she said was, with Anark, our error rate's gone down to 5 or 10%, which is much, much lower than it used to be. We have other ROI metrics we can talk about. If you're interested, please contact us.
Great, thank you. So we're just at the top of the hour. What we'll do for everyone still on the call, we will follow up in writing on the when we post everything. We'll work with Anark and the team, and we'll get some responses. They can include some links. Great questions, gentlemen. Thank you. Excellent presentation. I learned a lot about not just your technology, but about the processes and the needs of the community. So again, thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Take care.